Hey guys, before we start today's show, I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in our giveaway on our Twitter for the first 2 volumes of Harumatsu Bokura, Waiting for Spring. If you missed this giveaway, don't worry, there will be more. You can find us on Twitter at the Shoujo-Verse, and stay tuned for the next giveaway. Thank you so much. Hello, welcome everyone back into the Shoujo-Verse. I'm Aza, and today I'm with Summosa and Nikki, and we are going to be discussing the history of shoujo. We're going to start all the way back in the beginning 100 years ago. But first, what's happening with you guys right now?
Well, for me, I'm trying to hear back from grad schools and hopefully figure out where I'm gonna be, where I'm gonna be in the next couple months, and if I have to move. So that's kind of like the biggest thing on my plate right now. But other than that, just doing the normal thing. I put up another K-pop boy in our kitchen.
Oh no.
You can never have too many.
It's not a cardboard though. It's just like a little calendar thing.
That's cute. Is it for a specific group?
Yes, the boys.
Is this the one that had like the shoujo manga style album?
No, it's not actually. That was Pentagon.
Oh, okay.
It's not. But yeah, I put up another K-pop boy, and then I haven't seen my roommates in a while, and then I finally saw them, and they're like, "Oh, it's like been forever since we've seen you," because I've been like staying in my room a lot because I've been really tired. Like I feel like it's been forever since I've seen you, but then I came out the other day, and there was just a Korean man in our kitchen, and I was like, "Oh, Nikki's around."
She is still alive.
And I was like, "Yep, yeah." So if you live with me ever, I just leave Korean men everywhere.
So what's up with you, Sumo?
Honestly, nothing.
Sumo is tired because she didn't take her nap today. The end.
Literally. I do nothing and then I nap and then I continue doing nothing.
That's a great life though. Just a life
It's
of
not.
naps.
I need to get myself sick. I've been doing GRE prep. That's been like most of my time schedule. That's what I've been doing. Planning to take that in June. So we'll see
What's
how
GRE?
it goes. That's just like a graduate school SAT.
Oh, that sucks. They're like supposed to be getting rid of these standardized tests.
Well, technically they do, or like the ones I'm applying to don't have it required, but like I want it like as a supplement for my GPA. So that's what I'm doing.
Well, I just DM'd my first Dungeons and Dragons game for my friends. I've played in plenty, but I've never been the DM before. And I created this horror game for them based off of my nightmares, and they seem to be having a lot of fun.
Like your actual nightmare.
Yep, just straight up.
No.
I have a lot of scary dreams. I don't know why, but I decided to put them into a campaign called The Labyrinth. So I forced them into this terrifying dungeon where they have to battle or run away from a bunch of creepy things. I think the second part will be on Sunday. It might be the last. Might only be 2 parts, but went good so far. So that was a lot of fun. I've been doing a lot of planning for that.
Dungeons and Dragons is that thing that's I know about it, but I've have no idea what's going on with it.
Yeah, I know nothing.
Did you guys watch Stranger Things?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's literally the extent of my Dungeons and Dragons knowledge.
So I would say that that's not a good depiction of what it's like nowadays. Maybe it was like that back in the 80s, but nowadays it's just really, at least for me and my friends, it's just really silly. Like most of it is just us joking around with each other. And then there's kind of like that video game element where you grind levels and you try and become really OP and build your character to have really good stats and moves. So, I don't know, it's just kind of like a video game on a tabletop sometimes. But then also just
So it's like
you're messing around with your
Jumanji, right?
friends. I'm sure there is a Jumanji D&D campaign out there. That actually sounds like a lot of fun. But anyway, yeah, I think there's still some stigma around it just because it sounds like it's a nerd thing, and all the people who play it are like really into this weird medieval fantasy. Not so much anymore. Like, there's a lot of different settings you can play in, like a steampunk world or whatever world you want, really. Anyway, let's begin by going back 100 years. Actually, first, let's cite our sources. So for our research, we have our wonderful friend Danny, who didn't want to be a voice on the podcast, but was very much willing to help with research. Bless her heart. We referenced a few different articles. The first one is 10-Minute Shoujo History Lesson by Erica Friedman of the Shoujo Art Society. The History and Importance of Girls Manga by Caitlin Donovan. And a forum post by Master of Go on my anime list. And we'll put those links in the description, just in case you wanted to check them out. So, going back in time to the turn of the century, Japan opens its borders, and Western influence starts to seep in. So, by the 1920s, you've got a lot of literature out there for different age groups, young boys, but not until sometime in the 1920s did the shoujo genre actually come into existence in literature. And so as we all should know by now, that shoujo means young girl. So these were stories by women for young women, but also a lot of men were writing this content too. One of the notable novelists, which Sumo has done some research on, is Yoshiya Nobuko, who wrote Hana Monogatari, which is one of the works that set a lot of standards that we still see in shoujo today. But what did you find about her, Sumo? Because you looked up some interesting stuff.
Nobuko Yoshiya was a Japanese novelist, right? She was born in 1896 and she died in 1973. She was from like a conservative samurai family. Like both of her parents were from conservative samurai family, and she was raised to be like a good wife, like that type of role that was typical for people of her age group, like from her time period. And so she actually started writing like in her teens, and eventually she moved to Tokyo. And she liked to dress in like androgynous style. She was very she was one of the first Japanese women to like wear Western fashion by cutting her hair short. Her like notable work is Hana Monogatari, which means flower tales. And that was like a series of 52 tales of romantic friendships, and this became really popular among like young female students. And a lot of these stories like were about like longing from afar, unrequited love, unhappy endings. It was like her writing style is described as being dreamy. She's also written like some GL girls love stories as well. And she's actually a lesbian. She's not she didn't come out, but she had like a partner who was female. They were just friends. They weren't friends. But like that's like what her that's who she was. She came from a conservative family. She wrote a lot of books. She was a lesbian. She might be bi, since she also wrote about like male-female relationships. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
Very true.
She's not. She can't say. I mean, there's like a lot of things, new terms nowadays that weren't there before.
Oh yeah. In her era, just she.
The fact that she even was like, I can't imagine being in like conservative Japan in that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it probably was not that bad. I mean, I don't know. Since she was able to live with another woman and she was like openly like in a lesbian relationship. Like, if the Wikipedia article is saying that she's in a lesbian relationship and not in a friendship relationship, I feel like that says something.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like they're just friends, you know? Like people probably wouldn't even, I think at that time wouldn't think about it that way. I think it's also really different. I feel like for gay women versus like gay men.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it would have been a lot more suspicious for like two men to live together. But for two women, like they probably were constantly hounded about getting married and about having kids, like, and then as they got older, like they might have been looked down on for like not being married and not having a family. So she might have had to go through a lot of that type of stuff. Don't know.
Her work was actually not considered as anything like immoral or anything like that. A lot of young women and girls found her work to be like very attractive because there were like ideas of eternal friendship, sisterhood, and like it was like a realistic depiction of the lives of women, which a lot of people liked. And a lot of her works actually influenced like modern manga as well. Considering she's the first, like it obviously had to affect like future art authors. But I think we can go on from her.
Yeah. So unfortunately, though, in World War II, there had been a lot of publications coming out and like magazines for girls and boys. But unfortunately, during World War II, like they had material shortages, paper shortages that caused these publications to just dry up. Only one was left by the end of World War II, which was Shoujo Club by Kodansha. So unfortunately, like a lot of the progress that had been made, just they had to take a step back due to the wartime requirements. But by the end of the World War II, though, a huge demand came back, pretty much like how we're going to be when this pandemic is over. There was a giant demand for like recreational pastimes and new materials to consume. So that did bring back a big boom for like the magazine industry, especially for young girls and boys. And then with the end of World War II, the comic format was introduced over from America. And some girls' magazines actually started to feature some like single comic panels and stuff. So you might call that the first shoujo mangas, even though they, some of them were just like one panel. Probably the first true shoujo manga though was written by Osamu Tezuka, known as the father of manga. He also did Astro Boy Metropolis, but he wrote Riba no Kishi, Princess Knight, about a princess who had to dress as a boy in order to claim her right to the throne. So it introduced a lot of the themes that we still see in manga today, like women overcoming male dominance, trigger word, and cross-dressing, and just a lot of other fantastical elements. You guys, have you ever seen like anything by Osamu Tezuka?
I don't think so. I mean, I've seen Astro Boy. Wait, yeah, I have.
I think I've seen like clips.
Clips?
Wait, is Metropolis the one where she's like a robot girl?
Yes. Metropolis is
okay,
really...
Yeah, I've seen...
It's
it was
really
so
good.
sad.
Yeah, it's really sad, but it's really good. Like,
I cried at that ending so much.
It's so dystopian, like very much not a shoujo.
I've seen the 2001 film for it. It was really good. I remember watching it when I was like in elementary school.
Was there a remake?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
It just came out in 2001. I just know that film.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I saw. I'm pretty sure. Anyway,
the animation was really pretty. I remember that.
I recommend that one. It's really good. And
if you want to cry, watch it.
yeah, if you're okay with something sad and pretty tragic, then go ahead.
Ooh, if you guys rate it so highly, maybe we'll check it out. I don't think I've actually I've seen clips of Astro Boy. here and there. You know, that's like probably the most famous, but I don't think I've ever actually. My knowledge of manga does not date very far back.
Same. Back to the 50s, when Osamu Tezuka put out Princess Knight, it was something that a lot of men were in this industry. It was mostly men. There weren't very many women, even on shoujo projects. Like, it was mostly men, and shoujo was considered like a beginner thing. Like, it wasn't respected. It wasn't really like researched or documented or anything. Like, it was just like, oh, this is your basic project where you start, and then hopefully eventually you can move into shonen, and that's where the real money is. So it didn't really have a good reputation until the 60s, when more prominent female authors started coming onto the scene. People like Masako Watanabe, who did Garasu no Shiro, Miyako Maki, who did Yume, Toshiko Ueda, who did Bonko-chan, Fuichin-san, and Akoba-chan. And then Fire by Hideko Mizuno, which contained the first sex scene ever.
Did it really? The first smut.
The first smut.
Okay, but I still kind of wonder what they mean by first sex scene ever. Like,
we should look it up.
Kind of like in this female-dominated category, or like in manga, or like, I mean, I doubt, obviously. Well, hey, I think it's like in this. I guess it would be in like kind of that modern definition of manga, shoujo manga, I assume. Are we looking at it now?
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh my god, it's so like mystical looking.
Right?
Like, you see a little bit of booty.
Not really.
He looks like he's like, I guess they're laying down, but he looks like he's lifting her up, and she has like 10,000 miles of hair that covers everything.
Wait, where are you guys seeing this again?
Sumo sent the link. So if you and then click on the blue part that says the first sex scene ever.
Oh, I'm dumb.
I feel like they're totally on drugs.
Right?
Wait, it doesn't even look like a sex. Wait. Yeah, it doesn't really look like one.
But that's apparently the first one.
That's actually really nice. You know what this would look nice as? A tattoo.
Ooh.
Doesn't it kind of give you, because it's, you know, like not super detailed.
Oh my god, now I like,
it's very like
want to get a shoujo
flowy.
sleeve and like have like
Oh.
the history of shoujo, like have famous panels like this, like all the way up, you know, from as far back as
oh my
you
god,
can
that'd
go.
be so cute.
That would be peak weeb.
That is very peak weeb.
Okay, like very dignified peak weeb.
Yeah, no,
It's
it would
peak
be so
weeb,
nice.
but it's like very
It's a very
cultured.
classy peak weeb.
Yes, classy is the word I'm looking for.
Honestly, though, I feel like this would actually be a really nice tattoo design. The way that the hair like kind of goes off to the or like even that second scene on the next page.
Yeah, so I can put the link into the description notes.
If you're watching it on YouTube, I'll throw in the picture on YouTube.
Yeah, do it.
I was gonna say, imagine though, like someone asks you about your tattoo, and it's like, oh, it's the first sex scene that was ever. Like,
yeah, that's funny because
it's the very first smut.
That's funny.
Davina should get this tattoo.
Who?
Davina.
Davina.
Shout out. Hey Davina, if you're listening.
Shout out to Davina. Davina is a member in our Discord that we all met in.
Yes.
She likes her smut.
She does.
And she likes smut.
I call Nikki the wild girl, but I think Davina's probably the actual wild girl.
I'm so tame.
We're all nerds.
Our listeners...
So, it's like only so far we can go.
Our listeners don't know about that wild side of me, okay?
Your K-pop boys, man. Gift side.
Yeah, they only know about my cardboard K-pop boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty wild.
And my toxic taste in men.
Okay, anyway, so that's the first sex scene ever. Everybody look at it, and
It's really not NS. It's not. It's really not safe for work. It's safe for work.
it's
Maybe that's what I'm
very
trying to
safe
say.
for work. It's like, it's much prettier than it is sexy.
No, we said you can literally get it as a tattoo. Like,
Yeah.
if that can be a pretty good indication
I
of
mean, to be fair, some people get really like,
risky.
I
yes,
hate
stuff
it.
as
Oh my god,
tattoos.
I hate it when dudes have like topless women tattoos. Just like, why? Why? Do you want to
Freedom
like?
nipple, I
I
guess.
kind of like
Do
that
you want to like
second
be able to
page
look
more.
at your forearm while you're jacking off? Like, is that why it's there?
No.
I don't get it.
Oh, I don't need that imagery in
Okay,
my
my bad.
mind, Asa.
I'm sorry.
Take back your statement.
I can't
Cut it out,
undo
cut
it.
it out.
You know it's true.
I didn't. That wasn't like the first thing I thought of. I was like, there's gonna be kids that are gonna look at his sleeve.
Yeah,
And
no, that's the
where
thing that-
my like thought process went. Not jacking off.
Right? Like when you see a guy wearing one of those shirts that has like a topless woman or like a tattoo, and then his like wife is with him or his kids, and it's like, how are they okay with that?
Some people are just very open with their
I
families.
guess so.
Anyways, let's continue.
That's just my taste. Anyway, so 1966 rolls around and we get our first magical girl anime, Mahotsukai Sally, which was based off of the American show Bewitched. It was very, very popular. It had 109 episodes and it kicked off the magical girl genre. I did not realize magical girl genre was that old.
I feel like that kind of like genre-ish was, kind of popular in America too, was it not? Like, with Bewitched, but also, what else came out? Like, would Sabrina the Teenage Witch be around that time? Or is that too early?
I think no, I think it's a little bit later, right?
What else was there that I was thinking? Or like, I Dream of Jeannie?
I've never
Oh yeah, I
heard
Dream of
of
Jeannie
it.
came out. I Dream of Jeannie came out in 1965.
Ah, okay, yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking of instead of Bewitched. I mixed those two up. Oops. No, I looked up Mahotsukai Sally and like it looks so cute and innocent. Like she's not an adult, she's just a little girl. Isn't in Bewitched, isn't the woman like a full-on adult?
Yeah, she is.
I think that's what they usually are like in those type of shows, at least in America. They get I guess they get aged down when it transferred over to Japan.
Actually, I think it's because they thought like a more younger audience would probably like it versus adults. Since
That's true too.
what this is like post World War II, so did it have that much
Yeah.
free time?
Well, so the thing with like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie was it was like a sitcom. Like
Yeah.
she was like, she had these powers, but it was also just like slice of life, except if you had powers. Right?
It kind of
Yeah.
the art style kind of reminds me of Betty Boop Boop Doop.
Well, anime was inspired by American cartoons and by Disney, so
That's
that
true.
makes sense. Oh my god, I love her ugly friend. That's her ugly girlfriend. That's her face is so long, and she's just got this weird little nose, and then the other two girls just look normal,
Even her top's like more boyish.
right? I'm mean. I'm picking on her for no reason.
Yeah, you should apologize to her.
I'm sorry. Looking up your name right now. I don't think I'll find it.
Okay, I think we need to keep going.
Yeah,
We're just like, getting along. We're only in the 70s right now, you guys.
But the 70s is where everything happens. So the 70s ushered in a golden age where a bunch of female authors came onto the scene, particularly a group known as Year 24, or the 49ers, since many of them were born in 1949, which was the 24th year of the Showa era. And at this time, women now dominated the genre, and it was actually becoming respected. It was also part of the larger women's rights movement, parallel to what was going on in America at the same time. So it was inspired by that, and at this time they were redefining standards and ideas on love and sexuality and women's roles in society. So a lot of that was reflected in the art that was coming out at the time. Specifically, shonen and shoujo ai was introduced with series like Versailles no Bara, Rose of Versailles, and Oni Sama E by Ikeda Ryoko. So I think Rose of Versailles is the one that both Sumo and I have at least read part of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Rose of Versailles, I think, is a lot like Revolutionary Girl Utena in that there's a few, well, I don't know. They're inspired by, I think Utena was inspired by Rose of Versailles, but it's about Marie Antoinette. Well, it's about lots of characters, but there's also a female knight named Oscar who is a woman but was raised as a boy, and she definitely has like a romance of her own with another woman.
Shonen ai was also getting very popular in this time period.
I think that it was still like not acceptable in society, but the fact that it was coming out in, at least in manga, was like a huge step forward.
Maybe it's kind of like, okay, this is just fiction, so it's not the same
Exactly.
as being real.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
It's
still
kinda
like
similar
pretty
to-
popular for something that was like taboo.
I mean, it's still pretty taboo now in Japan, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
think
obviously not as
within-
much.
Yeah, but like within the past, I don't know, 5 years or so, I think it's really improved a lot. Like I was reading Hanakimi, and like when did that manga come out? I don't know, like 2000 or so. When that manga came out, and like the school doctor, like the school nurse, I mean, he's gay, but like everybody's like, oh, even though he's gay, like he's still a good person, like he's still helpful to me, like as if for some reason being gay like would, I don't know, like it's just, there's still definitely like, a
Yeah.
clear stigma around it, and
That
like,
doesn't make sense, but okay.
yeah, they're all like, oh, he's weird. I'm not comfortable with him talking about him like dating another man, but I would still talk to him about my problems. So even as soon as that time, it was still heavily stigmatized and like just openly talked about as being weird and unnatural.
There's also like the like some homophobic tendencies, like, oh, all gay people are pedophiles. Since I remember like when reading Hanakimi, he'd like have relationships with like, younger students, and I know that's like a stereotype that's like kind of like around like the LGBTQ community, where like the pedophiles, they're
So I think that might, I mean, this is like kind of another topic, but I think that part of that stereotype, like the origin of it, might be that during like the gay rights movement in the 90s, that pedophiles also tried to make themselves part of that movement. And they tried to be like, yeah, we're part of the LGBTQ community. And LGBT was like, no, you're not. And the pedophiles were like, yeah, we are. Like, we're with you guys. So I don't know if that really has anything to do with it, but
from what I've seen, like I'm not a member of the community, but like just like things I've like kind of noticed is because there's like not that many options. Like back in the day, like people all went to the same spaces for safety. Like age kind of just blended in, I guess, if that makes sense. But, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
a
don't know.
historian for this. So.
yeah. Well, like even so going all the way back to ancient Greece, where being gay, at least for men, was like very accepted. It was thought that only a man had the same intellect as another man, so only another man could love you on the same like intellectual, like higher level, and like it was like a purer love rather than like a more base love, or like a more erotic type of love. I
Physical.
think, with a woman, yeah. So there was a lot of, I think there were a lot of instances of older men like taking a younger man in as like an apprentice, especially like a philosopher, and his like his ideas were so appealing and attractive to this naive younger man, and they would often have like a physical relationship.
I mean, that's where
clearly
like
the older man was just taking advantage of the younger man. I don't know how we got on that tangent.
Shonen.
Yeah. So there was a lot of shonen and shoujo ai coming out at this time. And so shoujo literature, like the literature that had been coming out since all the way back in the 20s, had explored these concepts before, like with, what was her name?
Nobuko Yoshiya?
Yeah, Nobuko Yoshiya. But it had never really been depicted in manga before. So the 70s is when we first start seeing shoujo ai and shonen ai, and just explorations of sexuality in an actual manga format. And the genre also started to expand and address more serious and adult issues like the mental health issues, things like suicide and depression. And other subgenres came up, like sci-fi and historical dramas, like particularly sci-fi. So it was getting a lot broader. There weren't so many. It wasn't just like cute little fanciful tales or like those dreamlike first loves. The genre just got a lot broader. And the most notable artist from that time was probably Moto Hagio, who explored sexuality and gender in her sci-fi works like AA Prime. So in that one, there was a race of bioengineered people called unicorns that could go to space. And they had sex changes, and there were intersex characters. So it was like a whole new world coming into the shoujo scene.
It's crazy, like how much like shoujo and LGBT issues are intertwined.
I feel like if something like A Prime even were to come out today, it would cause up a stir. So it's like imagining that coming out way back then. That's actually kind of crazy, in my opinion.
Did people just like not notice, or did they like were like, oh, this is just fiction? Since like in the States, right, whenever something like controversial comes out, it's like banned book or like it's automatically banned. I mean, we have like so many books that are like in the banned book section.
Well, I mean, I think it really just depends on. I mean, I personally have not read A Prime or really know the premise of it. Like, this is literally the first time I've heard of that title. But I mean, you can feature sex changes and intersex characters and things, but like, it also really depends on how they were depicted, and how the story goes with that. So I think it's also one of those things where you have to be very careful about if you were to release a work like that with kind of like sensitive topics, such as sex changes or intersex characters, or featuring any type of vulnerable population, like someone who is transgender. But yeah, just imagining. I feel like there's probably a lot of works that are around today that are maybe similar. But I think it's interesting how just imagining a work like that now, how it would be received by the general public or like general population.
So I'm on the Wikipedia page for AA Prime, and it was actually well received by critics. It even won an award for best comic. X plus Y was the one that got an award in 1985. It actually influenced Ranma 1/2, apparently. But in general, it was well received despite controversial elements.
So anyway, Moto Hagio, who was probably the most notable artist of the 70s, with all of her sci-fi manga and her explorations of sexuality, also produced the first male kiss scene in manga in her work Into the Sunroom. Sorry, I typoed here. Into the Sunroom. I want to look that up now.
Yeah, I want to see the picture, see if it's like tattoo worthy. Wait, so it's the first male kiss scene, right? But it's not the context of it wasn't a BL, right? Or is it?
Let's see.
Was the context of it also a BL?
It's actually not into, it's in the sunroom.
Oh yeah, it's sunroom.
I'm looking at the it's search. That's what one of the person's names is.
I know. I'm gonna show this to Serge. I'm gonna show this to my boyfriend Serge and like put little name tags, like one is him and one is our other male friend who's always joking about trying to steal him from me. This is perfect.
They both look feminine in the drawing.
It was also the birth of the Bishi. Probably not.
Oh.
No, I'm that's
I
not
thought
an
you were
actual
actually
fact.
saying something.
No.
It's so crazy to see, like, it's how much it's changed from that period. Like, I feel like you see more, like, Asian looking characters now compared to the big eyes and.
Yeah, like I really wonder what inspired the style that you see from the 70s, like just with those galaxy eyes. Like where did that come from?
True, actually, yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't parallel like anything in American comics that I know of.
Yeah, in American, I feel like they have smallish eyes, or like realistically shaped eyes. Maybe like I feel like it came from one ideals, right? They like big eyes, and two, maybe it's like a lot of these series have like American or like not American, have like Western influence, as in like Rose of Versailles, which takes place in France. They're like Western person has big eyes and.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe it's like, you know how like in Western comics or like animation or like early cartoons, they'll like depict Asian eyes as, you know, super, super squinty. And so then here they're like depicting Western eyes as like huge.
It's funny because in Asian, in Chinese, not China, in Japanese anime, they'll give like the squinty eyes to like Chinese people. It's like that stereotype.
They are racist.
True.
Everybody's racist. But I found out where like the exaggerated eye size came from. So it can be traced back to Osamu Tezuka, the god of manga. But he was influenced by Betty Boop, who was also drawn with
his
like
art
just like in general like early animation, like just like such as Betty Boop.
You can see how it progressed if you think of it that way.
Yeah, there's also like that beauty standard of like a smaller face, and having bigger eyes gives that illusion or like makes this face look smaller.
Yeah, well,
I feel like that's like
the unfortunate basically holding white people as a beauty standard, like, so that's where you get like the whole smaller like thin nose and the big eyes. So I think it must kind of originate from that.
Well, I don't know if the smaller face originates, that kind of like ideal originates from like a Western beauty standard, but
yeah, well, I guess I was just thinking of the big eyes. The smaller face is a very, I think, Asian thing. Also, like, I know in like Korean like dramas, like K-dramas I see, they're always like with a hot guy there's like, oh my god, he has such a small face, like, so I guess that's really a big thing. Which is like, I don't like, what do you even mean they have a small face? Like, what
I know it is a little, it's like a weird concept to really grasp, I guess. Like, yeah, what do you mean it's small face?
Apparently, a small face is relative to your height and body size. So as long as your head is like smaller than the rest of your body, that's what it means.
Which is so weird because like anime has big heads.
Yeah, something like that.
Like literally.
As long as half of your face is eyes, then you're good.
Apparently, it translates to, it's known as kogao in Japanese.
A small face?
Like an aesthetically small, beautiful face.
Well, let's wrap up Moto Hagio. Some credit her as the mother of modern shoujo. So, Osamu Tezuka is the father of manga, and Moto Hagio is the mother of modern shoujo. And throughout the 80s, this trend continued. You had just, don't have any like notable groundbreaking works here for you, but this boom of like sci-fi and prominent female artists continued until 1992, when Naoko Takeuchi came onto the scene, and she made a short series which was the predecessor to Sailor Moon. And the anime industry discovered that, or the manga industry, the publishing industry, discovered that even young boys were interested in this. Previously, it had been thought that young boys had no interest in shoujo at all, but boys were taking interest in this work that she put out. So they asked her, her publisher asked her to create a longer series. So that's when she came out with Sailor Moon, which was hugely popular. And then it was made into an anime, which was just, as we all know, like the most popular of all time. With everyone of every age, and young boys, young girls, adults, everyone was watching it.
Yeah, it can be easily considered the most influential shoujo series ever.
For sure. I mean, I think that more people have seen Sailor Moon than Dragon Ball. I would argue that.
Oh.
As someone who has seen neither, that is very true.
Or at least, like, more people would recognize Sailor Moon than they... Like, I can say Sailor Moon to anyone, and they'll be like, no, I haven't seen it, but, like, I've heard of it. Like, anyone of any age. They'll just be like, yeah, I've heard of it. But I could say Dragon Ball, and, like, they wouldn't have heard of it necessarily. If they're, like, someone in their 60s.
I don't know. When I was a kid, like, we didn't...
feel like
Sailor Moon wasn't on TV. Dragon Ball Z was always on TV. I wouldn't watch it because I didn't like it, but I feel like it was there more often.
Well,
Yeah,
they were airing at different times. Sailor Moon was airing like before you were born, but Dragon Ball.
I'm just talking when I was a kid. I'm just talking when I was a kid and it was airing. Like
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z was still airing. Sailor Moon was not airing.
Right.
I'm just talking like CW for kids Saturday morning cartoons. I'd never
Yeah.
see Sailor Moon. I'd see Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, it wasn't really airing on TV
Pokemon.
anymore. By like
Yeah, I
the
think.
later 90s.
Yeah, I think like the run ended around 1997.
The American debut of Sailor Moon was 95 on Cartoon Network. No, on Fox. Sorry, on Fox, WB, and UPN.
I actually don't remember seeing it on TV either, but I did watch it when I was really, really young. Around like the super late 90s. No, it wasn't even in the 90s, like the early 2000s. I was watching it. I would go rent it on VHS. And so I'd rent it on VHS and go home and watch it and then switch it all out at the video rental store. But yeah, at that time, I don't think it was, at least I personally, I don't think I remember seeing it on TV at all. Like I would just get my fix from renting the VHS.
So according to this fandom wiki, it aired in 95 in America, North America, on Fox, WB, and UPN, and it was canceled after 65 episodes because it apparently did really badly, but it did really well in Canada. So it fully aired there. And then in 96, it aired on USA Network, and then it was purchased by Turner Entertainment in 98 and began airing on Cartoon Network and Toonami up until 2000, and then they ran reruns up until 2002 on Cartoon Network, and that's when it finally stopped airing on TV. That's interesting. I didn't know it was at first a failure here in the US.
Wow.
Shonen once again trumping shoujo.
I'm kind of interested in like what were the first animes to come to the US, or even
that
one
one
of the
I
first
know.
mangas to be licensed.
I don't know about manga, but anime would be Astro Boy, Gigantor, which was like an early, like in the 60s, it was a mecha anime. I think my dad said he used to watch Gigantor as a kid. No, Mom said she used to watch Gigantor as a kid. So those were the first anime. I don't know about the first manga though.
Astro Boy was the first one, premiering on Fuji TV on January 1st, 1963 in the US.
Apparently the first manga to be distributed in English in the US with its original artwork intact was Keiji Nakazawa's Barefoot Gen in 1978. I wonder why that one that is never heard of.
It didn't happen until 1978, though.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So it took that long for manga to come after anime had been airing for a while. But yeah, anime started coming over from Japan in the early 60s. That I remember from my high school report on anime because I'm a weeb. Yep.
Didn't you also study like art history?
Yeah, I did, but that wasn't.
You have the background.
That wasn't in my art history class at all. That was in my regular history class.
It's okay. I did a lot of like K-pop reports.
Okay, I feel better now. So obviously we know that Sailor Moon was incredibly popular. It produced like a boom of more comics and magazines for women of all ages. So I think the focus from shoujo shifted to be less just like for adolescent girls, and there started to be more specific genres for like really young girls, preteens, teenagers, young adults. Like they started getting the more specific genres, and you even started getting doujinshi. And it spawned an era of female heroes, basically, and girls with strong bonds with each other, like Magic Knight Rayearth and Cardcaptor Sakura. Actually, a fun fact, by 2009, there were more shoujo magazines in circulation than shonen. There were 40 shoujo magazines circulating in Japan versus only 27 shonen.
That's like nearly double.
A third more, at least.
Ooh.
And then, just within the past decade, we've really seen a big growth in the josei genre and the yaoi genres as the demographic that was really interested in shoujo when they were younger has aged up and the authors have aged up. Of course, now we know all of our modern, more famous works, but thus concludes the past 100 years of shoujo. We should have like a 100-year anniversary for shoujo or something.
Do we even have like a... Well, yeah, we need a... I guess whatever the published date was for Hana Monogatari.
Let's see if we can find that.
It was like 1916 to 1924. To 1924, since it was a collection of series books.
So technically,
she died of cancer.
Technically we already passed it, right? Oh.
Well, we can have like an anniversary for the end of it.
Okay, so in 3 years, we have 3 years to prepare for the 100th anniversary of shoujo. That's really cool to think about, like, young girls from a century ago, like, enjoying kind of the same things that we enjoy now. Just makes the world feel a little smaller.
Yeah, like, what was one of the very first stories, the one that was, like, where she dresses up like a guy, I think, like, Princess Knight, was that what it was called?
Ribon no Kishi.
Yeah, I was like, oh, it sounds like it's some premise that it's
it sounds like something you would see now. Like, it doesn't sound even that far-fetched.
It doesn't change. It doesn't sound... But, like, also, it's like, well, I don't know. What would come out at that time that would be weird now? Or, like,
I don't know. I
weird to think about
think Rose of Versailles would be odd to come out now. Like, I guess if you kind of put that isekai spin on it, maybe.
Imagine
I reincarnated into Rose of Versailles.
I've been reincarnated as Marie Antoinette. Yeah. Oh my god! And then they decide to change their story because they don't want to marry whoever I forget. Louis the something, and obviously like she didn't want to marry him, so she like changes.
Instead of marrying his cousin, I would marry some other cousin.
But imagine being in like, when was this? Was this the 60s? Was that what we were saying?
Rose of Versailles was the 70s.
Or 70. Not the Rose of Versailles. Okay, well, being back when the first shoujo mangas are coming out. Imagine reading it. Actually, like, I reincarnated it into Marie Antoinette. Like, it's kind of weird to us now. Imagine that, like, someone in the 1950s reading it.
Yeah, it's... I don't know, like...
Or reading any of those, like, reading any of the, isekai novels,
Right.
or even smut.
Well,
I
as
wonder
we
what the
learned, there
first
wasn't
isekai
smut at
manga
that time.
is.
Uh,
Not that you know of.
Well, there was like, I think there was smut literature, but there wasn't smut manga. At least
I
not
feel like the
anything
Japanese
published.
art can be so like erotic. Have you seen like?
yeah,
Oh yeah,
I
the
was like,
old
there's
like block, the wooden block prints. Yeah, they're very erotic. Freaking woman
There's the
like
other. There's
with an
there's that
octopus.
one book with all the different sex poses too, right? I forgot what it's called.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I'm talking
Uh
about?
huh.
That came out like centuries ago. Anyway, do we want to discuss like 2000s manga or shoujo
what
manga?
does manga look like? What does shoujo manga look like today? I feel like there's like it's really hard. I don't know about you guys, but ever since I started reading like webtoons, it's like harder to read black and white, non-colored series.
I don't have that issue, but I just like the formatting for webtoons more. It's more spaced out and it's easier to like scroll versus like tap 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 tap.
I appreciate that
Well, you can
they
like
always really go all in on the backgrounds. Like I know that they're like drawing over a picture sometimes, or they're just like using a filter on an actual photo to put in a background. Like it's clever of them, but I really appreciate how like you pretty much always have a background during in a webtoon on every
I
panel.
feel like they have like stamps
It's
or
true.
like ready-made stuff.
Yeah, they do for sure.
And then I think webtoons are more, digitally drawn or following that digital. I mean, they're all digital drawn, right? I assume. And then manga is like they kind of follow the more. I mean, I think they are digitally drawn now, but they kind of also follow more style that's supposed to look a little more hand drawn. I think.
We
I don't know.
also
It's just
we
I
also
just
see
think
like
of
the
Gekken
Pixiv
Shoujo
arts,
Nozaki.
like the Pixiv art styles, like where it's like digital manga versus like the traditional um, slice. What's the backgrounds called? Like where they have the where they stick it on. You know what I'm talking
Oh
about?
yeah, what are they called? Gekan Shoujo Nozaki-kun teaching, please come into my head.
It's been 4 years or 5, I think, since I came out.
I don't remember, but I should remember from reading that manga.
I learned a lot about how people write manga. Mangakas write manga from Gekken Shoujo Nozaki.
Right. I was curious, like when did webtoons first start coming out? And at least like the webtoon publishing portal was launched in 2004 in Korea. I didn't realize
Was
it was back
Naver
that
the
far.
first one or was it Dom? Okay, it was Line. Okay. Line Webtoon was the first. I think they're owned by Naver.
Yeah, I think they are owned by Naver. I don't know if they were always owned by Naver or if
They
Naver bought them
bought
out.
it.
I thought Line was like originally Japanese.
Oh, so Line is technically Korean, but it's more popular in Japan.
In Japan. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay, yeah, it says 2003 Dom webtoon, and then Naver webtoon in 2004. So even webtoons are almost 20 years old. But I guess they
Get
just
to Webtoons.
they didn't get popular in outside of Korea for some time.
Oh my gosh, he said it is almost 20. For some reason, I was like, oh, 2004, that was like, what, a little over 10 years ago?
I know, right?
You know how, like, people get, like, stuck in a year? Like, sometimes your mind is stuck in a year. I'm stuck in, like, 2016 for some reason.
Was that when
So
you
for
like
me, that was,
graduated
like,
from school?
yeah. Yeah, actually.
That's probably why.
That's probably why.
Anyway, so I guess the last thing we left off with was Sailor Moon, and then as we get into the 2000s, I think we start getting more. I think we start like going away from the fantasy element and more like what becomes popular is more like a drama, like Fruits Basket and Mars
True.
and Nana and like. So I think the trend sort of went towards something that was more serious and like everyday drama that had to be dealt with. And then now,
Like, we're sick of the We're sick of the cliches and the fairy tales, so now we want raw
Yeah.
stuff.
And then now we're kind of back on the fantasy with all of our ultimate isekais that are coming out, but they're also like not purely fantastical because a lot of them, the main character like kind of breaks the tropes and like breaks the norms. Especially like they keep going into worlds where like women are seen as lesser and like they have smaller roles. Like what's that one?
I think it's interesting how I think it's like so we like those fantasy like I don't know why we're always in medieval Europe, but we're kind of like really into that like fantasy genres, but still a realistic story with like realistic characters.
Well, sometimes.
Oh yeah, sometimes, but I think there is a greater appreciate like a lot of people will praise those like more realistic characters more so than the you know fantasy-ish idealized ones.
Yeah, the trend is definitely towards like women who are independent and who are not reliant on a man, and like even more so like a woman who breaks her destiny. Like she literally goes into like a novel or a game where she knows what's going to happen and she decides to defy it and to change it. And like so I think there's really a trend right now of feminism, like having your own, like shaping your own destiny and choosing
I think
your
it's
own
more
destiny.
I think it's really centered around control and women being able to take control of their own lives,
Yeah.
their own futures, and things like that.
Yeah.
I found a
Not just-
title. They say I was born a king's daughter. Is that the one you're thinking of?
Yeah. So like she goes into a world where women are like slaves. Like it's really bad. Like women are just
They're
like,
literally slaves.
seen as they're seen as nothing, and they're like and like the only reason that she's not like a slave is because she's born as the like a princess, but her father like doesn't pay any attention to her, and she gets it. The other thing that happens in isekai a lot is like they're like the person who's reincarnated is born with all these advantages, like they know it's going to happen, or like they retain their adult mind even though they're like a baby, so they can start like doing really advanced math and reading and English, like or grammar, whatever, while they're still like 6 years old, and then they have this like super long-term plan to be happy and to change society. But like there's just generally like a trend of women becoming independent and taking hold of their future.
I would not recommend They Say I Was a King's Daughter.
I dropped that one.
I don't recommend it either. I dropped it.
I got really far, but then I just started to get kind of bored of it. I feel like it didn't.
It took
It didn't.
She didn't
Like, she
solve
started-
anything.
she
She,
started to
just
get
like,
saved
oh
by
no,
the
everybody
gang.
hates women, and then like she doesn't solve that issue. She just
No, all
like
she does is
except-
like become like give. All she does is like give her dad a daughter complex,
literally.
and like chooses the man she's gonna marry. But like it doesn't feel like she actually did what she set out to do, which was like make life better for the women in her country.
Actually, I was thinking about a different one, but now I'm realizing which one you guys were talking about. I didn't think it was. I think that was actually one of the first reincarnation ones that I read of this,
Yeah, I
style
agree. I
that we
don't.
know of.
I can't think of anything like
Same.
sooner or like earlier than that one.
For like webtoon isekai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it was like a bad first one. Like it wasn't horrible.
Yeah, I read it pretty far.
Um,
I don't know where it's at now, but
Actually,
I read it
really
recently
far,
to
too.
see what was going on since I hadn't read it in a while. That's how I found the title because it was in my history from a week ago.
I think the last time I read an update for that was maybe like a couple months ago. So I've been caught up until like a couple months ago.
okay. Yeah, I dropped it maybe like 5-6 months ago.
Does it feel like it kind of just came out of nowhere to you guys?
Yeah. I just
how
saw an
did you find
update on some site and then I read it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
like
Yeah,
I
right?
went
That's what I was
to
thinking
I
too.
literally like went to the genre of shoujo and went like top rated shoujo on my manga reading site, and it was like on the front page, so that's how I started reading it.
I pick stuff that like update pretty often So I saw that on updating pretty often, so I picked it up and I liked it.
Yeah, I don't even know how I found it. I think I just saw it on some app too, or like some website, and I was like, I don't know what this is.
But I
Just
guess there's like a
read
lot
it.
of isekai novels out there that were like even that came out way sooner, or no, way
Yeah.
earlier than when the obviously whenever the webtoons came out.
Okay, I think it's crazy that I already think there's a crap ton of Otome Isekai webtoons, right? There's so many already out that they all came from novels, and that there's
There's
still
so
even more
many
novels.
novels.
Because they're
Like,
not like
there's
people
so
aren't going to get
many.
published now. Like they're just writing them as fans and just like throwing them up online.
Yeah, they're all
Like
like
they don't
web
even
no.
have
A
to
lot
go
of them
through
are
a
web
publisher.
novels or like light novels. They're like not like they're just like they come out chapter by chapter usually. Kudos to them though. Like I wish we had something like that in the States. I think we did, right? Or no, we didn't.
We only have
Yeah, we have
like
Wattpad.
fanfics.
Is there anything else we need to add?
I think we covered pretty well from the beginning up until now. I learned a lot in this episode. Like there's many works here. Like I've never heard of Hagio Moto, but apparently she's like responsible for a lot of what we have in shoujo today. So
I learned that there was like a lot of LGBT influence. I didn't realize it was like to this extent. Since like when you think of shoujo, you just think of like straight romance. You don't think of like
right.
shonen ai or
Yeah.
shoujo ai.
Okay, I came into this like honestly the oldest shoujo I've read, or even manga even, was probably Basara, and that was still in the 90s. So like I really don't know much about anything that came out before then. And kind of seeing manga and shoujo dating back to like the 20s or 60s or 50s was like kind of like, wait, that's kind of
Yeah,
far.
I didn't really think that it existed.
I think Basara is like my favorite like oldest manga I've read.
I still haven't read
It's
it.
really good. I really if you love like the enemies to lovers trope, this is it.
I don't know if I do, but
It's not like that
definitely
much of an
is one that I
enemies to
should
lovers,
try.
but like it's really good. I recommend it.
okay. I will force myself to read it. Well, anyway, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you learned a lot, as we did. Please let us know if you have any questions, or if you find any fun facts or anything you learn in your research that that we missed, or that you think we'd be interested in knowing. Definitely drop a comment on our various social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. But thank you so much for listening.
And I guess that is it. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you all next time. Bye.
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 Check out our social media. We're on Twitter at the Shoujo-Verse, YouTube and Instagram at Shoujo-Verse, and TikTok at Into the Shoujo-Verse. Thank you so much.